tracker, just a little tip in the issue tracker in the bottom right that tells you, hey, what does it mean that the wheels are overloaded? Stuff like that.
Yeah, like why do I care about this error?
Yeah. This one is if we have time, if we can figure it out, but there is a conceptually a way to do a whole designer using like traditional modeling program, like extrude and subdivide, and it's all in. And the idea is you create a form, you edit it, and then there's a way to convert that into like strategically into actual armor plates. So it's not like a whole part. It's like it's a tool that helps you make plates.
I'm reading the chat. People are just losing it. Like Sprocket? Like no. Well, not quite like Sprocket. Like kind of like Sprocket.
Just it allows you to make a form that you can then use as a guide. So you don't have to like place plates in that placement mode if you don't want to. You can just edit the form and then it'll generate the plates as you want. And then better vertex selection. This is an easy one. Box select, face select, edge select, just different ways to select vertexes in when you're editing either the forms or the just the normal armor plates post placing them. Some form of loop select, probably not, but it's there. 2D, 3D interactions. There's a lot of debate on what to do with 2D and 3D armor. So we might, depending on how the vertex selection and some of this other stuff goes, we'll maybe have a rethink on how we're doing 2D armor. Specifically in the fact that it's constrained in a weird way, which was mostly done because it was easier to place and a little bit more noob friendly. But then on the contrary, people that like just want to make a particular shape, it was really frustrating because you had to basically break your armor layout into a bunch of weird, bunch of different sections. You didn't necessarily have the forethought to do that. So we might build in the functionality of the 2D armor into the actual placement method instead of it being like a hard distinction between this is a plate steel and this is 3D steel. Just have it all be 3D steel basically. But time will tell if we can actually make that. There's also a cost question, like how the cost is calculated, but it's something that's on our radar. And the vertex merging, we probably won't get to this, but this one we can do. Copy position from another vertex that was highly requested. Constraint handling, probably not. That's like where you drag a plate and it automatically pulls the vertexes from an adjoining plate. And then a merge toggle for vertex mix. That's basically what I explained. So,
yep.
Yeah, and then for battles, we got hit reg still needs some work. That was kind of a first generation of a brand new hit reg system, so it has some teething issues. Should be easy to sort out. Just some networking stuff. Get hit reg on a reliable net channel again. Mess around. Yeah, this is just all better reload sync. That was a big issue. Time step difference. This is sometimes you'll see the shell like impact like a second later and you'll see the head effect after it's on your screen. That's because of a time step difference between the server and the client. Yeah, and less drag on shells as well was a big one. Level gen improvements to level gen flattening for mission elements is more for us, but just like improvements to level gen allow us to do some cooler landscapes and stuff in the future. Better spawn point handling so you don't like spawn on top of someone. The wedge case, that's a funny the build that could just like ram underneath people and like completely immobilize them.
Yeah. Well, that is entertaining. That's not quite what we're going for with our intended design.
Yeah, so just a few like either wheel vessel collision, ramming damage tweaks, traction parts having some kind of ramming damage mitigation. Attack units, this is like the little turrets, base turrets and stuff. This is our internal name for it. Update the models. They're just using placeholder models. Friendly fire check. Better handling for when the unit is destroyed. Getting stuck on like the destroyed wreck and stuff like that. Better mobility repair. So this is potentially controversial, but we want to figure out a way to do like a bare minimum like toolbox or something that you can place on your build and allows you to repair, like reconstruct things like sprockets and wheels and like a drive shaft, like basically
I use items that are relatively basic, things that you could like actually believe might be possible to do in the field. I'm not saying you're getting an engine replacement. I'm saying that when, the guy with the wheels drives around behind you, pops you in your sprocket, now you're mobilized.
Yep. For the entire game, and the armor recovery vehicle comes in, so basically situations that caused a lot of frustrating self-destructs, effectively.
Yeah, we don't want to head in the direction of Robocraft where you can just regrow your entire thing if you just sit in the corner and suck on your thumb, like in Call of Duty or whatever. We do want to make it believable what's happening, so there could be a case where maybe your crew is vulnerable when they're replacing your sprocket. Maybe not, but the intention is to just not make that one thing define your whole life, because now you're immobilized for the rest of it.
Yeah. And then generally you'll see in here we don't have anything discussing balance changes regarding parts and stuff. That's mostly because that's going to change a lot between each playtest anyway. So what we did was going from kind of the free form, okay, you can put any part in any rank, it costs more expensive and stuff like that. Going away from that and going to the rank system has generally worked, where you can't down tier parts. So we're looking to continue that and just keep working on the numbers and add more parts to fill gaps and stuff like that. So finally, the balancing system is not being completely overhauled from one playtest to the next, thank God. So we can actually move forward with that. But other than that, I will open it up, unless any of the other devs have any other points, I will open it up to questions.
So the main one that I'm going to be concerned with here, as far as talking to everyone, is the behavior of the AI as it currently exists was a overtuned kind of compromise system where it didn't come out the way it was supposed to, or even is capable of currently, for a couple of reasons. But the main one was the realities of the previous balance on the drivetrain, the previous map design, this and that. It resulted in needing a very neurotic AI that basically just backed up back and forth when they saw the enemy. It is capable of much more, obviously, but the way it is now, I'm currently working on it actually, is to make it more dynamic, actually turning perhaps, rather than only showing its face and doing all of the flanking behavior that it's supposed to have right now.
Yeah. I'll also point out that we are doing a bunch of changes to shell interactions. So we are getting, so one of the big things is direct damage wasn't doing enough. So the shell physically going through something wasn't doing enough damage and really didn't respect the caliber at all. So we're making a big change there, where larger caliber shells do proportionally a lot more damage just by physically going through things. And we're also finally properly disconnecting, so before, if you had kinetic energy was your penetration, that's just going to be marked as penetration, like an RHA equivalent now. And there'll be a different damage stat that's separate from that. And that's better representing what the shell's actually going to do when it goes through something. But other than that, fragment was fine, fragmentation was fine, explosive, post-pen, overpressure was all fine. It was just the direct damage from the shell interacting with stuff. And then we're also changing ricochet bounce angles. We're going to a chance setup. We're putting normalization back in, where you can have normalization on shells and anti-normalization as well. So shells will
To clarify on the chance setup, it's not chance to pen. It is chance to ricochet on a non-pen.
Yeah, so it's on a fail pen, there's a chance to ricochet based on the angle. And then absolute ricochet angles generally being increased from 60 or something on most shells to 70 or 75. That's the auto bounce behavior, providing the shell didn't overmatch or shunt. And yeah, and then we also we're working on embeds. You saw that in the dev pipeline. And those will do especially for AP-HE shells, is going to do proportionally less damage because they won't explode anymore on an embed. So in theory,
the fuse broke.
Yeah, the fuse broke. Yeah, so it needs to pass through something before having a chance to explode, kind of thing. So that will kind of change how armor balance and projectile balance will behave in the next playtest. So
generally speaking, you should see armor being more reliable while also being more reactive to the angle and the caliber involved rather than it just being a case of how many number am I throwing at your face.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the design intent here, is to feel more like tank shells rather than spells.
Yeah. All right.
So let's get our first individual with a question going then. Let's see. I don't know if these are alphabetical or otherwise, so I guess we just invite them to speak.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna go with Corbo because that's the first one in line.
Yo.
Yep.
Greetings.
So Hedda was kind of supposed to go before me, but honestly, we only get one question, so I don't see why not. But so I had a question regarding crewmate health. I've heard that it's going to be kind of decreased. I was wondering, by how much and all that.
So broadly speaking, broadly speaking, the damage changes coming in from the main projectile, not the spall, not the fragments, not the explosion, just the shell itself impacting something will be doing proportionally more damage than it has done in the past for a couple of reasons, one of which being the interaction of density and so on. But what we're not looking for is for a single shell to pass through your vehicle and instantly destroy every module and so on. But if a main caliber shell passes through a crew member, you can expect him to be pretty crippled or knocked out one way or the other, depending on how we do some Crew 2.0 stuff. So to give you a direct number is going to be pretty difficult because it could be 10, it could be 0, depending on how damage ends up interacting, but you can't expect it to be less.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. Mostly, right now, pretty much all that matters on a shell is like how much kinetic energy it has, which is basically its penetration. So all you're trying to do is get as much penetration into the dude as possible. But the amount of damage is fixed because of the density. Basically, yeah, it's a mess. But effectively, didn't scale very nicely with like. It worked good on smaller caliber stuff, and machine guns are just really weak right now in general. That's a different discussion, but yeah.
All right.
Well, okay. Now, let's get the next one in, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Cairo you said at the next question?
Heto.
Oh, we'll do it everyone. Everyone gets at least one question. We can do like repeat askers after everyone's kind of gone through. Okay. Step on up.
Okay, now I have to pick one.
You can ask multiple over the course of what we're doing here. I just want everyone to get a chance to ask something.
All right. I was thinking about playing off of what Corbo said in regards to crew, but instead my question is, in whatever level of detail you prefer, how is development of the sort of like long mission format going? Like what can we expect like gameplay wise and then like player engagement? And then I know you're talking a little bit about the bots as well. How is that going to work out?
Oh, yeah, that's fun.
What a good question. So there's a few problems with how the game currently works in its game modes, and the primary one is we don't actually have the game mode that we wanted to utilize this whole time because the game's been too broken to actually put it in. So we've been limping on a compromise after a compromise, and just recently we had the Conquest mode, where it's just two bases kind of filing units at each other like it's a game of Supreme Commander. The initial intention and expectation of the long-form game mode is to more fully utilize the TAC unit system. These are going to be non-combat vessel vehicles, like not something that you could build, not something that the AI currently can drive around, closer to something in principle to the base turrets for various things, but also stuff like little jeeps, APCs, little helicopters, just various parts of the military industrial complex driving around, doing things that I don't expect players to want to be doing individually en masse, such as constantly applying pressure to a certain thing to expect a player vehicle to come by and actually assist in that. Similar in concept, perhaps, and I cringe saying this, in any Dota clone, League of Legends, how you got like the mooks running around, a little bit like that. The whole long form game mode is expecting you to, for a long period of time, commit yourself to capturing objectives, defending, of course, attacking. But for the most part, your interactions with other players is stopping their strategic goal rather than getting another kill. And you will be starting with a lower end vehicle on the cost gradient from low to high, and you'll be joining with a given loadout. And as you progress through the long form mode, you'll be able to respawn with progressively more expensive vehicles and trade in the existing ones you had. We kind of got a little bit of this in with the cost stuff, but again, it was a cut down compromise. We just had to do whatever we could to get it in. That's intended to be vastly expanded upon, and these are intended to be part of the greater player progression and interaction on the server as we go forward, where these longer form battles might actually have some meaningful impact on your own in-server progression, whatever that might be.
That sounds fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, let's get the next one in. Come on, Discord. You made it so easy before.
Discord, please.
There we go. All right. Got the next one up.
Oh,
Cairo.
Hey, how's
Hello.
it going?
Good.
I'm glad to hear. First of all, I'd like to just say I really like what you guys are doing. Thank you for doing this. I just got turned on to you guys recently. Me and my buddies have been checking you out. Really love everything that this is about, and I'm glad I have an opportunity to put something in. More or less, my question, or maybe a statement perhaps, is that scaling, particularly scaling of modules, in terms of the designer, is primarily my questions of focus. Trying to design smaller vehicles, it's been hard to try to get things fitting in there, particularly like with how wide transmissions are, or certain type of gun scopes, sights and such, trying to fit them in the vehicle, and it's just been difficult. So I guess my question is in the future, is there intent to make modules scalable, or can they be scaled? And maybe I just don't know about it because I'm still relatively new at this.
So to answer your question right away, to ask your question, the fuel tanks are a great example of something that is endlessly scalable as an internal module, as well as ammo racks, of course. And to the greatest extent, we want players to be able to decide any given configuration of any given module, so long as they are all equally useful in some meaningful way. Like, you should not, as a player, be required to configure something that I hand to you in order to make it worth using. That is obviously not the design intent. Now, in the case of, say, for example, making driveline components individually scalable, thinner, thicker, and so on, there is some latitude for that. Like, I do really want to do that, but that opens up a lot of really interesting balance questions really quickly. For one, it opens up some questions on various performance concerns, of course. And my Discord is constantly dinging at me, so maybe I should actually look at that for a second. No, we're good. The overall question about driveline components is not so much as a concern in the case of like an axle, where the axles grow larger or smaller, or drive belts that allow you to transfer power in ways that you cannot currently do with struts and so on, kind of like the extending drive connector, I think it's called.
Torque box, transfer box. Yeah.
Torque box? Yeah, transfer box. Like that, but with more things like that.
Yeah. So
to go with stuff like taking an engine and you move a slider and it gets bigger, and then you move it backwards and it gets smaller, I'm not sure if that's going to be what we're doing in the short term. Me personally, I like the idea. I think it's cool. Is it something that we can implement realistically in the short term? Maybe not.
I guess I should probably, like, I would totally understand, obviously, you can't make an engine smaller, or if an engine was to be scalable, it would have to scale its output. I would imagine that's reasonable, but maybe another idea is, like, for example, with fitting drive sprockets into a transmission, an area where drive sprockets can clip into the transmission, so the vehicles don't have to be a fixed minimum wideness. And I'm also not saying this trying to think, I'm trying to make a blade thin little guy.
Yeah.
I'd like to be able to make like reasonably sized tankettes, and just being able to scale things like that, or like turret rotors, like not just the turret ring, which it would be nice if the turret ring could be smaller to make simpler one-man turrets, instead of having to do it with lots of little sprues coming up from the floor. Round
Right.
things would be nice, being able to plot things out that are round, or having some kind of overlay to make point from point making circles a little easier.
Well, that is, in fact, exactly what we were talking about earlier when we were going through the list of plans as a kind of a form tooling mode where it's not so much that you're generating parts immediately and exactly as you demand them. It's more that you are projecting a matrix for which you can create plates on top of as like a guide.
Okay, I get what you're
So
saying.
triangles,
I
circles,
don't use Blender,
squares.
so I
Yeah.
don't know.
This isn't a Blender thing.
No, I know that.
This is
I
more
know
of a
that.
CAD thing.
Yeah. But yeah, regardless,
like designing parts.
Yeah. There are plans generally to have some smaller parts, like especially smaller engines for like a little donkey engine or something. And as far as the gearboxes, like we've only really got one batch of gearboxes in the game right now. It works like perfect world as far as like a roadmap is like I prefer to have at least 3 makes of a particular thing in each rank. So that's like 3 main transmissions per rank, 3 main tracks per rank, at least 3 main of course we have way more guns than that, but just different variants, at least 3 per rank, different sizes, stuff like that, and with different balancing stats. There hasn't been much pressure to do the transmission gearbox, making it narrower because you can do brake steering with just a truck transmission, so it's kind of filled that gap, but not to say that we can't do it later. But
I suppose I could have other questions or statements, but I also don't want to take up a lot of time and let other people have a turn.
Yeah, we'll get someone else a turn,
Yeah.
and you can come back. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you.
You have
very
a lot
much.
of good questions, so I'm looking forward to hearing more for you.
Thank you very much, then.
All right. Do we have anyone that has not gone yet that wants to step onto stage?
If you just hit
Because I believe Corbo was here first.
Yeah, just hit the little request to speak icon on the bottom.
Yeah. Well, KTA. All right. I'll go with KTA. Hello, hello. Oh, it seems that their microphone is muted.
Okay, sorry
Nope.
about that. To figure out some audio stuff. Thank you
All
for
good.
having me. So my question for this one is, what are the tiering plans for playtest 3? Like, what tiers are included? And tied in with that, will there be any parts you're focusing the testing on besides just possibly the Crew 2.0 you guys were talking about?
So that's an interesting question because the main thing that we're going to be looking for is builder quality of life and the reactivity of things to damage. And by that, I mean the shells ricocheting or non-penning, stuff like that with the new collateral damage changes. So the effect of damage on modules itself and the experience of building itself will be our main focuses for the upcoming playtest, as far as I'm concerned.
And then, Crew 2.0, which will bring a couple new modules. We will probably see I would really like to see either electrics come back in or get hydraulics in of some description, so some other way to do turret traverse, because that will tie in nicely with the Crew 2.0 changes. As far as new ranks, at the moment, we're still just happy testing with just the 3 ranks we have currently, because we really want to make sure that these 3 ranks are the first ranks that anyone's going to interact with in the game. We really want to make sure they're nice and solid and good before moving on to bring back higher ranks or testing other stuff. So there might be a slim chance we get rank 4, but don't hold your breath.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. So if anyone else who has not gone yet has a question to ask, I'd suggest putting your hand up now. Otherwise, we're going to be getting some repeats here.
So
Commander Airman.
And then I think someone stole my username, is going to type out their.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So just type out your question there, and we'll answer that specifically. First, we'll go with the Commander Airman here as he types out his question.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Hello, hello.
Yeah.
Yes. We'll go with your question here, and then we'll go with someone stole my username.
What are y'all going to do with artillery? Are y'all going to implement it in any way or give it any...
This is player artillery?
Yeah, like where you can...
I can answer this one. Short answer, yes. There's going to be some form of player artillery. The current form is clunky and it's kind of funny, but was kind of a players figured it out over time, not really like a deliberate mechanic, you could say. So I have been working on a like specific artillery site that will aid and it basically does like the mills calculation, like it has a calculator in it, like actually like fully embody the idea of, you're having to do all the range calculations and stuff. Some kind of force perspective. That's one thing I haven't like nailed down on like exactly what the perspective is going to be. Is it going to be similar to the map view? Is it going to be something like isometric? Is it going to be where you need to like you're playing actually from the perspective of spotters, which is like it's a TAC unit, which is going to come at some points like a little dismount infantry train with binoculars that other players, scouts and stuff can place around the map. They work like wards in like League of Legends, and you can actually play from that perspective, and like you can fire artillery, from your vehicle that's way behind the lines. There's a couple things we're going to try and mess with, but there is
Essentially, what we're trying to avoid is no satellite. We're not doing the satellite.
We're trying to avoid like just the world of tanks. I can just scroll in right on and just see a perfect view of your tank, and then land shots. First shot accuracy being really really high. So at least if you get hit by artillery, they went through. Like it took a decent amount of skill for the person to actually like land the first hit, or at least get good effective fire. And of course, there'll be some artillery cannons with better range and damage output and stuff. Wait.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a few concessions that had to be made for game physics, but whatever. The concept of the spotter is going to be tied into a few things, but one of them is most of the time your first hit in artillery, like even modern artillery, is not going to be that accurate. It's corrected off of spotters, so maybe the first time you fire within the spotter's view, it has some built-in bloom. Like there's a whole bunch of ways that we can go about not making it, I can just snipe your cupola from across the map with a 122. Like we don't ever want to see that.
No. Well, it's going to work. Yeah. If you're playing from the perspective of the spotter and you fire your first shot, like you'll have your mills marks on the binoculars. And it will kind of ping a quadrant, like your shell landed here, like low and right. And it'll give you the mills, like, okay, you're 3 mills this way, 10 mills this way. And then you can then run, you can punch that into like the computer screen basically, and then it'll make your adjustments for you. So it's going to be actually how you very sort of trying to get it as similar as you can to like actually firing artillery, but still in a somewhat arcadey format. Like, put some smoke and mirrors on it a little bit, but
we're not trying to be simulator, but we have to be a bit more engaged than just like clicking in a satellite view.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, the only thing that I would say probably would be really good is have a crew member that if you put in the tank does the calculations faster if he's in there. If he's not in there, then the
excellent idea.
Yeah.
There's no reason not to have some artilleryman plotting guy. If you're in an artillery vehicle, I'm assuming it's because that is the design intent of your vehicle, so we should have modules that support that, including different kinds of crew.
Radio, yes, radio.
Yeah, okay. And all the things that you'd expect with that. All right, so now for someone stole my username question. Thank you, Commander Emmett.
Yep.
I cut him off. Oh, sorry. Anyway, so, well, it is about shell punch. Is there this mechanic already or not? And will it be a thing by shell punch? I mean, let's say I have a tank that got shot by someone big and somehow didn't die. Would there be a mechanic that would launch the tank away and not literally fling the tank? I mean, just bouncing back like 7 meters backwards. So there is an equal and opposite reaction so long as the shell is interacting with stuff. If it's just punching a hole clean through a tin can, there's not going to be that much force imparted on the vehicle. But if it actually does manage to hit something and impart its kinetic energy, uses up its penetration, then there will be the appropriate amount of force applied to whatever it is. To ask like, oh, I did X amount of damage, that means you take X amount of kinetic force multiplier or something. I'm not sure if I'm super happy with that idea. Like if this is something that people really want to see and they ask about all the time, then maybe we can try to have some kind of server setting for it if the server owners really want to have that. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it's not quite what we're going for, and the system already exists as we intended to implement it. If that answers the question.
Yeah, there already is a force being applied. And it's actually pretty extreme, all things considered. You can
it's pretty pessimistic.
You can easily like knock a person's turret like one way or the other. Like there's actually a meme going around that is simply that. So, but
yeah, just playing bongos on their turret cheeks. Okay.
But does it do the same with HE? Okay, I see what you mean.
That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
We do have the required information to create a quote unquote realistic simulation, like how much of the explosion's volume were you encompassed by, how close to you were you, and all those things. So we can investigate that and we can look into that, but for the most part, I wouldn't expect to see much difference aside from cases where the lighter vehicle would have been blown apart anyway, but it is something that we can try with relatively little effort. So good question. Let's see, go for the next one.
We got Wumble, we got Wumpula, we got FCM.
Yeah, all right. WBPL. Okay, come here. Please step up to stage. Hello.
Hello. Do you hear me? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So my
we're good.
question would be if you plan to add any type of ammo mixing. So like a single 10 centimeter cannon could fire both AP and HE and you could swap them out mid fight.
Ah, yes.
So yes, this specifically has been on my mind personally for a really long time, and we do have the technology for it. Like it's not an impossibility in any
The bones
case,
are
but
there, yeah, like a lot of the scripts are ready for it. It's just
the two confounding issues have been the UI, which we've been very hard at work at trying to make actually bearable to use from our perspective, let alone your guys. And then of course, the balance questions of various types of shells, because we probably don't want to end up in situations where we have different tiers of shell for the same weapon. That's probably not a great idea, but it could be something that happens in the future, so we should account for all possibilities. And just basic cases of usability. That'll be $5.99. Thanks.
yeah, but yeah, having different, especially like you said, a high AP and a high explosive, so a hard target shell and at least a soft target shell of some description. Especially if there's going to be more of these like other units driving around, it'd be nice to have that. So the main hurdle that we've been trying to figure out is like, how do you interact with it in battle as far as like, can you change your ammunition loadout in the deploy screen? And then that answers up like a huge question mark on like, how do the ammo racks actually get set up and whatnot. But so there's a few outstanding things we need to figure
War
out.
Thunder as an example for like the deploy screen where you got the little sliders and whatever.
Yeah.
I would assume you build separate ammo rack for a separate type, and then whatever you have built, you can swap between those two.
Yeah, that would be the
That's
simplest form. Yeah. The other ones we've thought of are you can set the percentages in each rack itself. There's some question marks that come up with like ready racks. How do ready racks get replenished and stuff? So if you, do you need to have like how
Like, is it just the same setting? Like, do you always want 5 rounds of HE in your ready rack no matter what? So it's going to go find the rounds of HE in those first and then load the AP. Like, there's a few little design questions here that we need to get right, or at the very least consider. It's not so simple as to like just, I want 2 HE cells and 5 of these other shells and these things. Like, yeah, that works fine. But how do we actually communicate what's going on to the player? Yep. But it is our intent.
Yep.
I see. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, who is next? I think it was SCM.
Yeah. FCM,
All right.
Bob Ross, then Nausicaa, and then
All right. Hello.
Oh, thanks for having me here.
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask a more gameplay-oriented question. What kind of meta are you looking to have in your game? Or like, what kind of play style do you guys want to promote, and which one do you want to see the least, like compared to what we currently have?
So generally when I think about what meta I want to see, I start to think like that's kind of the wrong question because players are just going to do whatever they want, obviously. But we can make certain choices to discourage things from happening, like the wedge case, the build driving around. It was like $43, and it was killing people by driving underneath them. Like that was creative and funny. Maybe not exactly what we wanted to see, just off the cuff like that, without some kind of design intent to it. Like, okay, if somebody's doing that, you do this. Well, in that case, you couldn't do much at all. Like me personally, I want to see a minimum of like 0 effort, 0 engagement, beam bunkers driving around impervious to everything. I'm not saying I hate armor. I've been fighting for armor being made better this whole time. I also implemented the armor degradation mechanic, so if you shoot the same spawn multiple times, it actually goes through eventually. The things that I don't want to see are lower cases of player engagement, whatever that ends up being. What were you going to say there, Invalid?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
It's probably still a bit too early to like nail down what the meta is going to be or what like the design. It's just, yeah, to Muzz's point, if there's a very prolific gameplay style or meta style, if you want to call it that, where there's like it devolves into very simplistic engagements without much counterplay, and like everybody feels forced to play that way, then we are very much going to look at breaking that up. So think of it like monopolies, right? It's just no matter pretty much no matter what the meta is, we will make efforts to break up, and so there's multiple different play styles that are viable to a certain extent. It's just we don't know what those are going to be per se, but as long as there is multiple options, then that's all we really are looking for at the moment.
Ideally, they should at least be fun to someone.
Yeah.
Like you should be able to find something that you personally find engaging and fun to do. And if we can't do that, then that's a skill issue on our part.
Yeah. You shouldn't feel forced to just do one thing. Yeah.
I have to say it's very ambitious, but I thank you for the answer.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Why do you think nobody's done like this type of game in a while?
It is understandable.
All right. Thank you very much for your question. God, we could talk about the UFO some later time.
Yeah.
All right. So the next speaker, Nausicaa, I believe.
Yo, what's up?
Hello, hello.
Hot minute.
Ah, yes.
I'm not sure if anyone asked this question yet, but are we ever gonna have like walker legs in the game?
So that has not been asked for the current Q&A, and there is a bit of a funny story around that. When we were just starting with the ground component of the game as you currently see it, there was hovers, there was wheels, and there was one tank track, and there was a fourth one which we didn't quite fully implement, which was walker legs. Like from the very start, we've wanted to implement something to that extent, that idea, but walker legs that are placed on arbitrary angles, on arbitrary things of arbitrary mass for arbitrary reasons, they have a whole bunch of different design questions that need to be answered way ahead of time before you even see anything. Like, just look at the difficulties that people are having with the suspension modules as they currently exist, which is the best they have ever existed. Well, they're a bit of a pain to deal with. Now, just imagine that, but times a lot more. Like, it's a lot of design problems that suddenly appear when you try to do something as
like
convoluted as a walker leg.
Like how would your machine go if you have 4 legs, one gets blown off, and then what?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
there's
I would-
a few procedural questions with that have been solved recently in some other games, like Arc Raiders. I think they have a few cool systems. Like that's not really my personal issue because we can wave a magic wand and you will see what I want you to see. But how does damage actually affect what you're doing? How does drivetrain power actually affect what you're doing? Like, are you running hydraulic pumps? Are you running electric motors? Are these
Right.
crankshaft powered legs? Like, what's going on?
I would say also
and
you have
especially on the. Oh, sorry.
You'd also
Yeah,
have a
please go ahead.
component where can the leg be taken out? Is the leg like an entire part, or can it be taken out at
Yeah,
like say the knee?
That's right.
Yeah,
So you have
right.
half a leg.
It's very
So
much a damage question. Yeah.
We have these multi-modules that exist conceptually where you need multiple parts to make it up. Like if you think of a turret as it currently exists in game, that's a turret ring, that's all the structure on it, that's all the things inside of it, that's a trunnion, that's a cannon. Like we could consider that a multi-module if you really wanted to. But to transfer that same logic to the walker leg, I'm not going to ask you guys to build a walker leg. That kind of sucks. If you've ever played Garry's Mod or Space Engineers or any other sandbox game, building something from scratch kind of sucks. In that sense, where a walker leg is super difficult. Yeah, so it would be like some maybe procedural thing, maybe this, that, and the other thing. But we need to answer some very specific questions to how the damage model will interact before we even consider it. And we're still changing it. So if it is going to be implemented, walker legs as a concept into Ramshackle, it will be after we are confident in the structural stability of the rest of the system. So we don't need to rework 4 systems instead of only 3.
That makes a lot of sense. It is completely different from wheels and tracks. So I am still amazed by how your tracks work in this game. It's the only game I know of that does it. Like where the tracks, the actual tracks are what are pulling the tank and not the road wheels. One more quick question on suspension. Will there ever be more leniency towards wheels and the suspension system of the wheels? Because whenever I try to build like a car,
yes, that's a party foul. You've asked more than one question, but yes, that is our biggest thing in mind, and I swear I am going to be refactoring some things as soon as I am able. It's a physics interaction issue, not a logic issue.
Yeah.
Yay,
Wheels are due
awesome.
for a rework. Just they're
Yeah, okay. So anyway, we'll get the next question in. Thank you for yours.
Yes, thank you for your time.
Okay, I believe it's Bob Ross next. Bob Ross. Do we have a Bob Ross?
Let's see. Might have just asked it in chat. Are we going to see more guns / other parts the next playtest? Also, the current 25 pounder isn't quick firing. Yeah. No mic. Okay. So most of the new parts for the next playtest are, like I mentioned before, are focused around Crew 2.0. So, and maybe some work on like hydraulics and traverse parts like electric motors and whatnot. And if there's any new like other parts like cannons or tracks or whatever, it's just mostly out of like modeling convenience and like stuff that was already in the pipeline. So answer your question about the 25 pounder, yeah, it's kind of a made up gun. At least so not the quick firing. So it is the 95 millimeters based on a real gun. It's put in a Cromwell. It's just the nomenclature of it being a 25 pounder is made up. Just that was kind of done for. I wanted the naming convention for those guns to all kind of be the same, and the British for whatever reason didn't put a pounder designation on that one gun, so it's just like why. So I just made up a number. But yeah, I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Hope it does. All right, who's next? I think it'd be Bartelikekpl. These names, man. All right, Bartelik.
Hello.
Greetings.
I have one question about the future of the game, because I'm about excited to see things like hydraulics and maybe even electricity later in the updates. And I want to ask a question about if there will be any like logic, more complex stuff.
So logic, when you say logic, that means if it senses something like a raycasting rangefinder, for example.
Something like detecting how much ammo you have left, and I don't know, maybe
So
gravity.
vehicle condition, throwing flags that have something,
something
else
like
happen.
that.
So we've always kind of discussed and argued the benefits of doing a logic system versus the downsides. And the benefits are obvious. I don't need to tell you them because you're asking about them. The downsides is that it makes developing various systems interesting, because do I expect you as a player to be using logic when I implement something? And if the answer is yes, and we have a new player that has no idea what a logic gate is, now they've hit a brick wall. If the answer is no, then this is basically only for power users that want like automatic lights and stuff when you're doing certain things like emergency lights when you catch fire or whatever. Like, that's a nice little set dressing feature. Is it worth devoting dozens of hours of development time for? Yeah, maybe. But at the moment, in the short term, I would probably say probably not. Like, me personally, I love the idea. I loved WireMod from Gary's Mod. Like, that's how I learned the basics of programming, of course. But there it is, the basics of programming. A lot of people don't want to know the basics of programming. A lot of people can't even deal with the control screen. They have to take one look at that and turn right around. So as far as implementing it as a required system, I never want to do that. As far as implementing it as a add-on system that you can do like cool little things with that are relatively easy to understand from a perspective of other players, I'd love to. Not in the short term, in the longer term.
And there was another question with, what was the first question? Was it something about hydraulics and electrics? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, hydraulics and electrics.
So we had electrics and motors and stuff, alternators in the game previously. They're pending a rework, and like I said, if there's time, we'll get to them for this next playtest. And hydraulics kind of, so all hydraulics at the moment are being scoped out and being tested at the moment. Is just like basically a glorified drive shaft that just allows you to place, like, you place the pump, and then you place you click again, you can attach the motor, and like it generates the cabling, the piping between the two. So it's like a drive shaft as far as how it interacts with the game, but it allows you to maybe do like, you could specify like the pump ratio, or maybe the max torque it can pull. So like the idea is you just stack multiple of these and they go off into different directions what you're trying to do. You can attach, if electric motors are a thing, you maybe just attach a motor directly to a hydraulic pump. If that's what tanks did a lot of the time. So there is some things that are being investigated. And as far as people who remember the alternators and electrics from playtest 1 and before, what we're having to do is, you'll get the motors back pretty much the same way, nothing really changes. The big issue was with how the alternator generated power and how it was like a separate module. And we're having a bunch of issues with like the placement of that, where that was placed in your drive line, and how it sapped, like, is guaranteed to sap like, 50% of your horsepower, 30% depending on the setup. So it was very annoying to like figure out all of those interactions, especially as like most of the time you just wanted to stick it on make power and you just didn't want to think about it. So what we're probably going to end up doing is having it be a part that is like a toggleable, that's on the actual engine itself, and it's already hooked up with like a drive belt and stuff, and it establishes that power dynamic between the engine directly without having to go through the whole drivetrain system to figure it out. So that will make it a lot more like plug and play instead of what it was before, and then do some other changes like have voltage juice be actually like mean something instead of what it was set up before, where adding batteries
Moving
and
to
stuff
like a
actually.
rationalized logic system,
Yeah,
instead of like a contrived, there's how many ammos per voltage square joule. No, let's just make it volts and amps and all that. We're good.
Yeah.
Hopefully that answered your questions. Again, another one with plural questions.
Yeah.
We're trying to keep this cut down, but I was happy to answer both of them. Thank you for your questions.
Yeah, also thank you.
All right, next questions. I think it's going to be Tiny Xenomorph. I think, yeah, Tiny Xenomorph.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Greetings.
Hello. mostly wondering about like hydraulics for suspension, like both for wheels and track.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I kind of understand if you don't want it like tilting because that's gonna just be in wedges, but like even just the up and down, ability, like the strikers or
So
you know.
I'm already in your court on this, and I desperately want the ability to do all sorts of crazy stuff with suspensions. Like for the longest time, the only thing I've ever driven is an 8x8 with crab drive and full mixing on all the wheels. Like I want the most control possible. I want to double blind my controls. I don't even want my hand on the mouse. I'm going to be using my whole keyboard. I'm all for that. And recently, very recently, we've gotten to the point where the suspension is not fighting us at every possible juncture. So it's actually possible to do something like this, like the ability to change the ride height dynamically at runtime without causing things to just explode. That's super recent.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying no, never. And I'm not even saying no, not in the short term. We have other things to fixate and get working, but that is something I do want, is the ability to control your ride height via hydraulics for whatever modules they are. This might not be a tier 1 thing. This might not even be a tier 3 thing, but I do want it.
Yeah. And to throw in some kind of transmission that can allow for aim, mouse aim as well.
That just answers my other one. I was going to ask if you have one that'll let you even just turning side to side, so you can build like a UDS 103.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's all I had to ask. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your question. All right. I think it's the fish next.
Mm-hmm.
The fish. Greetings.
And we could probably do Corbo and again and see.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So my question was, do you have any like plans or anything for torque and grip on various like materials? I noticed in the test area there's like sand and water and stuff. And I've tried messing with torque and stuff in there, but I don't really notice much difference between
Tell us about
like anything.
The wheels, Muzz.
So the wheels are an interesting beast. There is a few things missing, and as much as I would love to just drop in an entire subsystem to react whatever to whatever, we actually do already have that. The wheels know exactly what they're driving over, but the actual ability for a wheel to break grip at this moment in time, this very second, does not exist. The wheels are not spinning. It is all smoke and mirrors. Every single thing that the wheels are doing, I have to manually, and Sarek and I have to manually program these behaviors in. And the concept of wheel slip and spinning is something I tried to force in like 9-10 months ago, something like that. And it super didn't work because of how the rest of the drive system is in consequence designed from things upstream in consequence and so on and so on. So I'm not saying no. I'm saying it's been on my mind for months, please. Yeah. You don't understand how much I want
there is
the
some
ground feel to be good.
Yeah, there is some mechanics that are already in place. They're just not super noticeable to your point. There is like drag increase when you go through different like water and stuff, but various changes from previous updates to the drivetrain code and stuff has basically mitigated those. We just basically need to do an entire focus, like to his point, like just focus on getting all that stuff sorted, bring it all back up to speed. You know, it's like a whole traction kind of dev cycle milestone kind of thing. It's kind of all been a little bit all over the like hodgepodge the last basically various improvements since has made other stuff irrelevant, and so we have to bring them back up to speed. So it's a catch-up game.
Yeah, hopefully that answered your question there.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's see, who is next?
We can do Corbo really quick because I think
yeah. Corbo. He's got his hand up?
I think so.
Yeah. Yes, he does. Okay.
Yo,
Corbo.
So my kind of question is regarding like the pacing of combat and survivability of tanks and things like that, and it also kind of ties into my last question about crewmate health. But like relative to something like War Thunder or World of Tanks or something like that, how exactly do we kind of plan on pacing the health of crewmates and also like, you know, what kinds of things they can survive and things of that sort, because
Time to
what I'm
kill,
kind of curious
basically,
about is
right?
are one shots and well placed shots, like if you're smart and you know what you're going up against and you know your gun and their armor, are you going to be able to, kill their crew?
Can you reliably one-shot somebody with a cannon round placed where it should kill a crewman, is your question?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Well, the Crew 2.0 system has a few consequences downstream of a couple things, and one of the various features that we are looking into pursuing is a full crew knockout. That means that your vehicle becomes like a husk, essentially. Like, it doesn't explode, it's just no longer controllable because there's nobody in it. Now, that would make the health of crewmen very contentious. So having them be one-shots versus not one-shots, that would need to be carefully investigated, but it's not something we can't try. Just, okay, if I shoot somebody anywhere with something any bigger than a 7mm, I expect them to become gravy.
Well, not like instant death like that, but like
Generally, so in general, our aim has been, we want more integrity on parts because we like the visceral experience of like parts getting damaged, getting destroyed. Like you have this like progression of damage. When you get one shot constantly, you don't see any of that, right? We've always done the notion of more blood. We don't necessarily want it to be a full world of tanks on the other side of the spectrum either, where it like takes 10 shots to kill somebody. But yeah, so you should be rewarded for good, well-placed shots. Like Amarak's, shooting Amarak on most designs is kind of an instant KO in a lot of situations. But so it's trying to figure out layering and not just having this. You shouldn't have the expectation that every shot is going to one-shot someone, but also
well, yeah, of course. I do want it to be like a really well-earned shot. One-shotting people.
One shot, like critical components that is going to meaningfully affect the enemy, and it brings me closer to breaking them dead.
Yeah.
But like that, I see no problem for trying to pursue and trying out just as many other systems in the game. Like, we genuinely don't know how they're going to work out. We just have suspicions.
Yeah. But the crew knockout kill state is going to basically fix one of the big like ailings of the damage model that's been in the game for like ever, which is the driver is like a meat bag. So as like the one way to direct kill a vehicle from full to zero just by nailing the driver over and over again, because his hitbox can never get destroyed until the vehicle's destroyed. So with Crew 2.0, that's going to change. So like if you knock out the driver, his hitbox is gone, so you can't keep doing damage to him. But this also means there's a chance that there's no crew operating the vehicle, which leads to the knockout state of crew death. And in that state, the vehicle will be technically have health still. It just will be considered a kill. It's just sitting there, driverless, or maybe it's a ghost driver in the sense of it just holds your last input, maybe do some funny stuff like that. But and the idea is like having some kind of revive mechanic where a teammate can come over and donate one of his crew members to bring you back alive. So in that case, what's going to happen is if you're shooting someone and you do a crew knockout on them, you can choose at that point to keep putting shells into the vehicle until it is, zero health.
Yeah,
and
you're making a conscious choice to make this vehicle die versus just taking the reward and leaving.
Yeah. So, and that also,
salvage vehicles and so on.
Yeah, salvage, yeah.
Well, I just want to make sure that like eventually a meta will emerge and people are going to be kind of forced into that meta, and I just want to make sure that historical and real life tanks and recreations of things like that, I want them to make sure that they can fit in the meta with like designing tanks around protecting the crew and things like that. And I just want to make sure that the crew are the soft meat inside of the crab's shell.
Yeah, that will be the intention of these changes, and if they work out well, that will be the game plan going forward.
Sweet.
All right. Very good. Thank you for the question. All right. What are we doing next? Hitao? He's been in there for quite a while.
Yeah. We can do Enric and KTA again, maybe. And then we also got Bayo Rex as well.
Is Bayo Rex new?
Yeah, we'll do Bayo Rex really quick.
Yeah. Let's do Bayo Rex first because everyone else has asked something, I think.
Bayo Rex and Enric, I think. Yeah, are the two new
Okay,
ones.
Enric first then. Just because he's higher on my list, I don't know if he's actually first. Greetings. Oh, looks like they're messing with their microphone settings.
No.
Because they don't have a mic. Let's see. My question is that can we get a tool that would allow carve out different linear or nonlinear shapes out of armor, like negating one shape out of another, like a Boolean operation, I assume. Not necessarily using a polygon mesh editing. I don't know if it's possible, but still. So this kind of ties into some of the questions that we answered earlier on, but very specifically, we do intend to have a lot more quality of life tools for building a planner for placing plates and so on, even if it doesn't automatically generate these plates and shapes for you. But these will be procedural shapes that you can make changes to and so on. Now, for the Boolean operation, like putting one shape into another shape and subtracting one of them so it leaves like a hole or something, I personally love that idea. Physics engines just don't. So there's a lot of questions that we need to overcome with that kind of thing, because every game engine on the market, doesn't matter what it is, but this one happens to be Unity, needs convex mesh colliders. So imagine taking a plastic bag and wrapping it over a cup. The inside of the cup is now not something you can touch anymore, and that's how the physics engine will see any collider, so long as it can touch other colliders, for reasons that I'm not going to get into. Now, a way around this is to create something called compound colliders, where there's many colliders per any given module, and that is already what's happening, except for the armor. Now, this might sound, oh, okay, we can just make a dozen mesh colliders per plate, but A, that's a huge performance cost, and B, these mesh colliders that are generated are going to be generated basically on, like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, dude, trust me, bro, from the editor, and the physics engine will try, and if it screws that up, then that's going to be a huge issue for obviously a lot of reasons. So it opens up a Pandora's box as soon as we look inside. I'm not saying I don't like the idea. I love the idea. I want to do the idea, and especially procedural shapes that have inbuilt voids, so to say, where we have already controlled for the positioning and placement of the colliders. So you might not get totally free 110% ability to do carve outs on arbitrary armor shapes. I'm sorry, but we're going to do our best.
Yeah. There's a chance for doing a Boolean operation in the sense of, like, especially like interface on like curved plates and stuff is probably going to be really difficult for, there's a chance we could figure out something where like there's a collider that's has a different, like, we basically effectively can do different densities on different colliders on a per collider basis if we wanted to. So you could have a collider. You could already kind of do this with like pass-through parts or hatches to a certain extent, where the penetration system and stuff takes the fact that the pass-through has a lower densities, mimicking the fact that there's like a hole for the pass-through, so the damage model can actually see like there's a weakness in the armor where the pass-through is. That's already kind of being done right now, but
yeah, that is in fact kind of how the armor degradation system is working. I'm just telling the damage model there's actually a hole here, so just ignore this bit.
Yeah. So there's a chance we can lean into that a little bit, but it's, like I said, it's a big Pandora's box, and that also doesn't help with just generic collisions for like turret collisions and stuff and whatnot. So
now, for specifically designed trim pieces, like I see in the comments there from Kikaskal, that is already what's happening, and we intend to keep doing it and add useful shapes that have annoying kind of setups. Like, I want you to be able to create a square with a hole in it of an arbitrary thickness. I think we can manage that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Next question.
Bayorex, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be Bayorex. All right, Bayorex. Oh. No Bayorex.
Bayorex is dead. Maybe it's another type question. I'll answer. You want to answer someone stole my name again?
Oh, okay, yeah, he needs to rejoin. We'll come back to him. Let's see. So who are we gonna bring up next?
Just someone stole my name has another DM question in chat.
Yeah, okay.
Just added me.
So where is that? Let's see. Oh, he's back. We can just try it.
Yeah, we'll bring him in. Yeah.
Okay, he's been invited. Is he working? You know what? It's a text question, so that's fine. My questions are about future composite and, if possible, auto ladera. What is the idea for that in the future? Will it be a recreation of the old composite, or it be similar to the idea of lead glass and RHA plate mixing and angling, i.e. make a huge blob of material or add actual composite plates? And how will autoloaders work? Is it modular? You replace the ammo, the carousel, the loading rods, etc., or something like stat autoloaded?
I'll do the autoloader. I could probably do both of these.
Yeah, go ahead.
So for autoloaders, so we can kind of do whatever we want with autoloaders. Like we have the technology. It's just a question back to like what is palpable for most players and stuff. So it'll be something in between. It won't just be a stat, and it won't be necessarily you get to place every single individual component. You have to like figure out the geometry to get it to work right. What's probably going to end up happening is certain guns at certain ranks. You know how you have the filter menu or the folder menu? You can choose like the ammo, you see the gun, the ammo choices and stuff. Some guns will start getting autoloader options in that list. So it'll be kind of and maybe even different autoloader variants per gun. So this is mostly because a lot of the guns and how their ammunition was set up was designed for either an autoloader in mind or not, which defines on what style of autoloader mechanism you'll get. But so you'll have maybe the 125, and you'll get both variants of the carousel, and then that style of autoloader is what makes that cannon unique versus something like a revolver type autoloader on like an AMX or a belt type, or not a belt type, but another form of a carousel where it actually uses like a set type. But anyway, it'll be on a per cannon basis, and something that's a physical module you place, and it works like an ammo rack, but it has very specific placement rules of where it can be and stuff, and orientation of the cannon. And I'm hoping to get proper animations for them working as well, which will be cool. And then for armor, yeah, so I would like to split out, instead of just having this as composite material and then that's all you have to work with, I'd like to split out into different material types, and they'll have different properties against different shell types. So depending on how you layer them will give you different effectiveness against specific shells. It won't necessarily, in practice, you can probably get different shapes and orientations and stuff, and you can probably make some pretty exotic stuff. But yeah, so it's something in between hyper realistic, but like you actually have to think about the material you're using against different shell types. So there'll be like, textilite, you'll have ceramics, you'll have, Kevlar, you'll like have it broken out into different materials. So you can use Kevlar as like spall liners.
This material reduce spalling and so on. This thing does that.
Finally.
Like I'm achieving a very specific result with the choices of material that I'm putting in here. So if it's a light vehicle, I'm probably only going to want a spall liner.
Yeah.
And it's probably only going to be on the front because, whatever. Yeah. Let's see. Thank you for your question.
And then, so someone stole my name. So question of not gameplay related. How many people are working on this project? How is it financed? Is it a passion project, or is it a full-time job for you guys?
To call this a passion project is kind of, I don't know. Was Noah's Ark a passion project? Like constructing something to save yourself, but also as like your single guiding fixation, what you come home to every single day. It's financed by blood, sweat, and tears, and the love of the game. And we are absolutely not making any kind of investment back on anything we've done. If we count all the hours that we put in, like under a salary, no way, man. But we'd love to make money off of this, of course, so we can actually keep doing it.
Yeah. And it's about, so it's us three, and then we also got Fran May, who does all the audio in the game, all the sound effects and music and stuff. And yeah, we're pretty much we treat it as a full-time job, even though a lot of us are working also our day jobs as well. So hopefully
candles at both ends kind of thing.
Yeah. So
I mean, just saying I'd pay like $20 for this. Thank you. That's incredible.
That's way too much. I'll give you 15.
I'd pay 40. I don't know about 40. We don't have all the things that I want to put in yet. Let's see. Who do we have next? I think Ren's going to be the most recent person to have not had anything asked.
Yeah.
All right. Come on, Ren.
It has been a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes, it has. Greetings.
I have 2 questions and they don't involve armor or wheels.
Whoa.
Wow.
I know.
What have you done with the real Ren?
So, what do you think about as far as like when the artillery is going to come into the game?
This is
We've
player
talked
artillery?
about it for a while.
Player artillery?
Yeah, player-driven artillery.
Yeah, this was answered earlier. There is a dedicated artillery site and artillery guns. They're in the pipeline. Basically, once we are happy with, I mean, it's pretty much just when we can get to it. I'd like to have it sooner than later, but it's just other things are taking priority.
You will likely see.
But
I kind of figured it was something like that.
An NPC truck.
I came into this call late, so I didn't hear it earlier.
Yeah,
And
it's all good.
then,
But
what do you think
that's
about
fine.
multi-class systems for the vehicles?
So like having
repair
a
engineer,
repair
class
structure and then
artillery.
so a repair artillery wagon would be quite the impressive vehicle. I would probably say that's going to be an expensive vehicle because it has a lot of capability. But I don't see any reason to say, no, you cannot possibly do that for arbitrary XYZ reason, because A, we genuinely don't know what's going to end up happening with a lot of these systems being mixed together and played. So we're just going to need a lot of testing. But B, I like the concept of multi-classing because sometimes there's nothing to repair. And maybe you want to be useful, but you don't want to be in harm's way because, you know, the white mage getting killed, that's probably a bad idea. So making an artillery recovery vehicle would be pretty interesting, but I would expect its capabilities as a recovery vehicle and its capabilities as an artillery vehicle to be compromised in some way, or it should be hideously expensive. You shouldn't get a free ride, is my thoughts on that, but that's going to be a case of like actually observing how this all works.
Recovery vehicle being the other option. Being
Yeah.
like a heavy tank first recovery.
And like I expect cases like having an A bar on your heavy tank with like a welder. Does that make you a recovery vehicle? Well, no, it makes you a heavy tank capable of either fixing a little bit of yourself or a little bit of your buddy, but it's not going to be like bringing half of someone's turret back. Like just a little bit to tow them around, that's
the
fine.
other thing too is I think this is confusing, like the difference between classes and roles, which as far as how we're developing it, classes and roles are 2 different things. So roles haven't really been dropped yet. There's some stuff in the pipe for that, which is, but the class is more just the weight class and like your complexity limits and stuff like that. Like you're not going to get.
So they're going to be 2 separate systems.
It's 2 separate systems, yeah.
So that's what I was worried about. Like a heavy tank class wouldn't be able to go into repairs.
No, it's going to be like, so there will potentially be roles will be locked out based on class. Like maybe you can't have a heavy scout. I don't know, but that's going to be, mileage will vary. We'll see on how that actually goes. But I don't see a reason why you won't be able to make a heavy armor recovery role vehicle versus a medium heavy, a medium recovery vehicle or whatever. So, but yeah, the role will give you a bonus or a perk that aids you in doing your task. So like if there's an armor recovery role, it would be like it gives you extra information about your teammates, about their durability and stuff like that, what their ammunition status is and whatnot, so you can more effectively do your job. Where in other vehicles, if they don't have that role, like that would be too much information, would be too cluttered for them, right, to know all that. So putting that on the ARV role would make sense. So stuff like that. But like I said, that stuff is a little bit back in the pipeline, but you'll see it eventually. Okay.
That is the only question I have. Don't involve armor or wheels.
All right, very good. Thank you for the question.
These next ones are ones
all right.
already gone. Probably had to again.
That's unfortunate. Do head to again? All right. Hello, hello.
Heto, welcome back.
I think he had to click on it to
I
join.
am here. I'm here. Sorry.
We are so back.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, you didn't hear that at all. I said I had to flip a coin to decide which question I was going to ask. Okay, here we go. Okay, Tails. So I had a few questions about gun mounts in the future. I know some of these are just kind of like a little bit World War II specific as well, but in terms of like is there any sort of like plans for an Omni-Mant coming out? I know hull aiming was talked about earlier as well.
Yeah.
And then in regards to like the current trunnions, is it possible to like change like where the starting angle is, so that way you could have like with the current trunnion B, it just has that fixed strut that you basically just have to have up and down because the zeroing angle for the trunnion is at a fixed point. Would you be able to change the zeroing angle so you could have a different angle relative to the trunnion?
That's already a feature, is it not?
No, so the zero angle doesn't adjust the. So if you tilt a trunnion right now, it doesn't change like the aim point. Like it's always going to be aiming down. Like you can't adjust that zero angle. So the zero
like it's
angle is
zero
the
relative.
center, zero relative, yeah, to the. So in theory, that wouldn't be too difficult to add from my initial thoughts on it. Or
That is just one more slider in the advanced settings.
And then for an Omni mount, yeah, I have a Omni mount model I've started, and it'll get finish it when I can finish it. So the trunnions and turret ring, as far as like modeling, because they're so so this is partially why we don't like doing procedural parts, and like infinite scalability, adjust like you can make every part like you can adjust the width, scale, and everything. It adds so much to the modeling and like design scope of a particular asset when you have to think about all those things. So there is one that's in the pipeline. I'm hoping to get it done sooner than later. It's just again, the scaling options make it more tedious to set up than just modeling a preset model and just shoving it in the game, which is what most of the other modules are. So, yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Let's see. What do we got next? KTA, I guess?
Yeah, there's also some in the chat. We've got.
Okay, let's do some chat questions and we'll get to KTA.
Omni mounts? Oh, people are asking for like a tank destroyer mount. What are those called?
That's the Omni mount, yeah.
Yeah, that's an Omni mount, like a ball mount, but scaled up. Like personally, I want as many variations as I can really get on that, but there's only so many things you can do. So kind of universalist, generalized Omni mount. We're looking for that.
Player infantry.
So like players controlling infantry, like enlisted?
Can we play as
or
infantry? Probably not, but you could probably command them.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're gonna go with that's out of scope for Ramshackle, like first person playing as infantry. Like telecontrolling a squad of dudes around, like your camera follows them, kind of like in some Total War games in like general mode, how it like caps your camera movement. Like I could see a distant maybe for that, but the amount of extra systems that would need to be added to make first person combat anything but like tacked on kind of trash is probably going to be out of scope for the foreseeable future.
Yep. And then questions, possibly hydraulics, where there be a way to rotate parts like telescopic sights up higher to see more ahead.
Rotors and
so things like
pistons.
rotors and pistons, yeah. So it's not an impossibility to do that kind of stuff. There are some physics ramifications. Like it's doable. Like we can do it tomorrow if we wanted to. It's just making them interact nicely with biggest question.
What happens when you're flipped over?
Yeah, what happens when you flipped over? What happens network, like what's happening on the server versus what's happening on your client kind of stuff.
If I shoot somebody's scope who's extended, like does it break?
Yeah. So it would have to, yeah.
Let's see what else. Could you walk around your tank as a robot?
Yeah, so we are planning to do like APC stuff. So you could drop off a squad of dudes and they do stuff, but you wouldn't be in first person view for it. It's
Yeah,
just
your
like,
job is driving and shooting the vehicle. It's their job to go capture or deal with whatever it is they're doing.
you
You're above that. So crew replenishing, that is another option for some of the systems, like crew just equaling crew. So an infantryman perhaps being tradable into a crew member might not be out of the realms of possibility for giving more utility to IFV vehicles that have a large amount of crew available. That might be a good idea for a recovery vehicle to have, you know. Yeah, just make a bus. All right.
But unironically. Airburst rounds. Probably in the
Yeah, it's just a question of fusing and such with the shell code. Like, it's absolutely possible. Like, I could again implement it right now and just have a programmable fuse delay offset. Like, oh yeah, I want this to explode 0.3 meters off of anything it goes near, and it has a billion pen, whatever. Like, that's all possible. It's just a case of actually implementing it in a way that makes sense and is intended to do something rather than just be something that's cool. So we kind of clamp down on feature creep.
Oh, here's a good one. Has there been talk on the current methods to change the current track and barrel torture TBT meta?
I wasn't aware of such a meta.
Well, this is a thing where like you immediately anchor to the ground with the mass of a neutron star the moment your track breaks.
Yeah, we've been discussing the best ways to not have the tracks just turn into things that don't roll. The second that they don't have a track on them, like that doesn't really make much sense for a couple of reasons. The reasons that it exists the way it does is that that's just how it ended up out of the box, and we went, okay, that's working as intended. You stop moving when your track is hit, and then that's that. But as far as making it something that is like a caster, for example, with a bit of suspension to it, but it has a whole bunch of drag or whatever, that's possible and planned. It's just going to need a little bit of thought on how this is going to interact with some other systems, because we don't want another incident like the gigantic box with the tracks poking at the little bottom, like the Flintstone drive. Let's see. Absolutely.
Moderator,
come on in. I don't think he's been in the chat so far.
My bad. Hello. Hi.
Hello.
Yep.
Hi.
Greetings.
Hi. All right. So, actually been thinking about that a little bit. You're talking about infantry and whatnot, APCs. So I really got to ask, are you going to have things like actual dedicated mortars? Like, like there's some vehicles that we have in real life where they just have like a heavy mortar, like 120 millimeter infantry mortar just mounted in the back of an IFV hull or even
The short answer is yes, but the long answer is no, in the sense that actually implementing such a thing is going to require a few more features that we don't have right now. Like a mortar requires the ability to change the amount of charges that it has in order to modulate its
Not
range.
a mortar though. Not a mortar though. Mortars are fixed.
Like a mortar barrel in the back of a vehicle that you drive around. That is absolutely a thing that exists.
Yeah.
In game, we don't have mortars, but
yeah. Well, mortars are a fixed
LRS,
propellant. Yeah.
The other thing I was going to say, like rocket launch vehicles. I know that. Like I know. I guess it wouldn't be like a dedicated, like it's an infantry mortar type thing, but I guess it really just falls under the purview of our artillery systems, really.
Yeah, there's some artillery stuff in the pipe. But yeah, conceptually, there's nothing wrong with that idea. So you'll probably see it in some form in the future.
Awesome. That's pretty much all I had to ask.
Yep.
All right, very good. To be clear, I'm talking about the little propellant bands that they put on the mortar shells before they slide them down the tube. They're absolutely variable.
Yeah.
Like that's how they aim.
Yeah.
Source Arm Ever Forger.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for the question.
Not a problem. See you later.
See ya.
I do prioritize text or the guys in.
I'll look through text. Yeah. I'll do one text question. We'll do one voice. So got a question regarding non-playable mortars. Is there going to be a way to manually make them fire at specific targets or coordinates? So this is a general like TAC unit can you command them
Yeah.
to shoot at specific things?
I want my like attack units and other supporting things, like my assets to do stuff, and that's going to be a question based on like exactly what it is. So if it's a fixed mortar position and you call in fire support to a specific area using like a radio module, like that's totally on the cards.
Yeah.
Anyone on the team currently can command the AI tanks or AI vessels?
AI vessels, yeah.
So there needs to be like an ownership system and probably not let anyone just tell the AI do whatever they want.
Yeah. So we'll probably
Or
build that
die.
into the I think the radio module has been something that's been on the back burner, and it's something that can help a lot with this command stuff because that's literally what its whole purpose is. So that will be a good opportunity to build in all those mechanics into that.
Metal box with wheels sticking out. All right, listen here, you. I don't want to admit you're right. All right, what's our next text question? Or did we want to do a voice question?
We can do a voice one now. We'll just alternate.
All right, so KTA I think has been waiting the longest.
Yeah, KTA, then Caro again, and then
Okay, KTA, let's hear it.
Corbo will be next.
Hello again.
Hello.
Hello.
So I wanted to touch on the autoloader a little bit earlier, mentioning the revolving autoloader, carousel autoloaders, and such.
Yeah.
Will there be like included parts such as the doors? Like we'll just say example Abrams. Will there
ammo
be
doors,
parts
yeah.
like that? Okay.
Yeah,
And
Like the thing that does stuff during the loading cycle?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
One day crew actions will be line of sight, yes.
Yep.
That'll be
And
required, but yes.
Will those slow down the reloads, or will it just be like a flat, we'll say 10 seconds to reload this? Or will like having a door add like 2 seconds, we'll just say, for example?
That's an interesting question on the basis of like gating action based off of physical state has always been a very controversial thing inside and out of the dev team.
Yep.
Where like line of sight checks, that's really easy to say and talk about and think about in cases where it's not preventing the user from outright doing anything. To degrade the experience by quite a bit, I think that is perfectly acceptable to just make it take a long time. But in the case that you don't have a loader, period, there is nobody loading at all, then it doesn't load. Or does it take forever because the driver uses telekinesis? Like there's a bunch of little questions here. And I've always been more on the side of disabling the ability completely if there is nothing actually doing it. But in the case of checking, okay, there's a door in between the ammunition and the gun, and I want to fire the gun. Can I fire the gun without the door opening or just like a wall of armor? Are we ever going to just totally lock that off? Well, that'll probably depend on how it works out. Probably going to lean towards no in the shorter term just to simplify actually making the game function, but I would like to experiment with that kind of thing. As far as what we're going to do in the short term, it's probably just going to be a heavy penalty.
Yep.
Okay. And this is connected to it as well? Well, you said talking about the driver telekinetically doing stuff. Will that reloading for the autoloader, like you cannot reload until the autoloader is empty?
Oh, I see what you mean. That'll be I know what you're talking about. That'll be on a per autoloader basis. So
okay.
Some types will allow you to reload mid mag or mid clip or whatever you want to call it, and others you'll need to wait to exhaust everything. So
okay. That answers my question. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. All right.
Any other chat questions? Will there be any kind of ammo customization creation like from the depths? You could choose powder charges and stuff, warhead payload type or anything.
This one.
Not planned. We're probably not going to do that.
Modded, though, pretty
it could be modded for sure. Yeah, you
Yeah.
could actually do a really easy mod for it probably.
Like this is a community effort thing. Like if you personally in your heart really want to see it and it has to be made happen, like as we roll out more tools for people to be able to make their own mods and so on, just go for it and we'll do our best to support it if and where we can. We're not saying it's not in because we hate the concept and we never want to see it in the game. It's just out of scope and it adds a lot of difficulty to systems that we find difficult enough as it is.
Yep.
All right. Want to take another text question or go back to voice?
I can do one voice if there's anybody. We can do Cairo probably. Cairo.
Yeah, Corbo. Corbo.
Yeah. All right. So I have
Yo.
one kind of small question and two suggestions at the end, small ones. But my first question is to kind of incentivize people playing, ARPs or whatever they're called, the support vehicles. Would you consider adding in like VoIP, proximity chat?
VoIP and proximity
we should
chat
totally do
to nearby.
Yeah, like just nearby. Because like when I'm playing like Foxhole, I love being able to talk to my teammates and sometimes to the enemies, and I think something like that would allow for clippable moments that could kind of get the game out there. You know what I mean?
Yes, the marketing feature.
course,
Well,
yeah.
I think it's always very funny to shout at somebody as you're shooting them to death. So, like, conceptually, I love the idea.
Yeah.
In practice, actually, yeah, obviously, but actually integrating the idea, that's going to take a few extra steps. Obviously, I don't want it to sound like garbage. I don't want it to crash your audio. We already have enough problems with the audio.
I see. So my two
but-
kind of suggestions. You go.
No. You ask a question.
All right. My two suggestions are the Spall simulator in this game, and the explosion simulator and all that. It's incredible. It's phenomenal. I love looking at it. I think it's awesome. I think it's in great detail. But it's kind of hard for newer players to see. So I think that the best thing that you can do is maybe take like a GIF of it or just some screenshots and kind of put it on the Steam page.
Yeah, we had this discussion.
You're really funny.
Yeah.
You're really funny.
Did I not hear that?
We had that.
Yeah.
But it was a whoops, and it was cut off the page accidentally, and it wasn't caught until it was a little bit too late. But don't worry, we got that one in mind.
Wonderful. Yeah. My second suggestion is, assuming this is an example costs pricing point, but if you guys make this game like $20, too low in my opinion, but a bunch of people like that pricing point. I would love if there was some kind of a like supporter pack or something like that. That's like $10, $15 that, like I could buy that would be like, I don't know, maybe I could change my like name color or something like that. Or I could get like a little symbol or something.
Discussed this exact thing. So the pricing that we're angling on for now in early access, like right as the game currently exists, I hand it to you, $15 please, US. As we add more features, the price will increase to match what we believe the game to be worth. So especially when there's some kind of single player campaign component, I would expect to pay closer to $30. Something like that.
That does sound good. Yeah, I think I forget what they were called. Abiotic Factor did something kind of like that. Every few updates they'll like increase the price a little bit. Actually, I think they just increased the price for 1.0 release. But anyways,
yeah. I think
that's
Minecraft,
Factorio,
Factorio,
I'll have another
whatever.
question after this, but I don't want to take too much time. So
I want to add
Yeah,
on
of course.
to your KRV request actually.
What was that?
Encouraging gameplay. There's a lot of map design things you can do with that. Like I just had one written down of the AR the cranes. There was a feature I didn't get in where they were able to repair the base turrets. So if there were like I don't know, truck wreckages that would spawn around in a match that you could drive a tank up to, like the Risk Rain drones, you just find them on the map and repair them. Like that's video games. That's what I would do.
Yeah, just things for people to go do in these utility class vehicles that isn't just shooting the bad guy. We really love that concept and we really want to do it, especially with the longer form game mode.
Yeah.
All right. I will be back with another question about anti-tank guided missiles. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh boy. Well,
do Cairo next?
Cairo, yes. We'll get Cairo. Hello Cairo.
Again. Hello again, gentlemen. Thank you very much. What I had to say was almost more of a suggestion, talking back on when we were talking about tiers, tier 1, 2, 3. One of the things that I had to suggest, and there's a little bit more going into it that I could if you'd like me to. Maybe you talking about 4 tiers, 3 or 4 tiers. What if you had like pre-war or interwar, early war, like World War II, meaning late war, and if there's a 4th tier, you'd have like early Cold War or post-war.
Yeah, so this is probably yeah. Right now we have like internally we're just not, because a lot of it's moving around flexible. Basically we have about up to 8 ranks that are planned. So the current rank 1 is kind of like the cap is about 1940, like 1941 kind of thing. and then rank 2 is about 1940. Well, no, it's like it was rank 1 was pre-war to 1940. Rank 2 is about 242. Rank 3 is like 44, 43, 44, like battle, and then rank 4 is going to be end of World War II. So cap is about 1950. Rank 5 is into early 60s. Rank 6 is 70, and it kind of goes from there. So like you'll get each decade for each rank.
Okay, cool.
So, and that will be kind of how we figure out stuff. But yeah.
It's obviously going to be a bit squishy. Like, it's not, oh, this thing was
it's not a hard
January
rule.
1st, 1941, so it must be in this rank. Or it's more like, okay, how does it fit with the other stuff? So you might see anachronistic combinations. That's just how it's going to be.
Right. Because, like, you look at, like, when stuff, like, if you look at, Soviet and Russia and German tech was just, like, rolled off the production line and, like, instantly put into service. Whereas the Americans and the British, like, they tended to test stuff a lot more. And, like, so they're really, stuff was always, like, when they had it in development versus, like, when it was introduced, like, there's a large time window when they're testing the, crap out of it, where the, Germans and Russians didn't really do that. So we'll kind of take that into account, and it's a soft line in the sand per se.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
If I could, going into that, one of the thoughts that I had in regards to how the tiers are currently set up now, in talking about armor again, sorry, I frankly think that it's kind of shocking that I'm allowed to have a 100 millimeter plate of riveted steel.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I could just do this for the entirety of the front of my tank, and really what I would imagine to be what should be in tier 1, like small caliber, high velocity AT guns, like 37s, the 45, the 57s that you have in here. Like realistically, these AT guns should not be able to handle that kind, in any way penetrating that kind of armor.
Correct.
But at the same time, I thought, what would be really fun? I don't know if you're familiar with the Hamburglar mobile armored cars the Japanese use, and it's like, man, it would be sure fun to make something like that and drive it around, but I could never hurt anyone or do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few
the armor
changes coming
balance
through to how that's going to be.
The armor balance was kind of, so the DEG put a big change into armor balance, and we had to keep cranking the cost of armor in playtest 2, which is the playtest before the last one. And in the armor DEG, the aim was, okay, we can make armor cheaper, because basically armor was taking up like more than all of the other costs of your vehicle combined a lot of the time with how expensive it had to get. So we'll definitely be looking at some balancing adjustments as far as either how the cost is calculated on armor plates and stuff. So yeah.
I suppose as an addendum to that, like for example, with tanks that I've designed, I oftentimes have lots of little polygons inside of my turret that are extraordinarily expensive, even though they're still relatively thin. And I've been trying to just cut components in order to try to save cost.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean by the cost calculation is a bit off right now.
Like, it was in major part designed when our major concern was, the physics thread is the largest cost in the game right now, and we're barely functioning at all. So we need to make sure that our counts are down. So the costs need to be kind of this way and that way. Like, it wasn't an idealized point even when it was working properly, and it quickly stopped working properly. So there's a lot of latitude for changing exactly how the costs are being calculated for small stuff and large stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's more or less the suggestion that I wanted to make, and thank you. It's good information to know. I hope everybody else appreciates that as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, what do we got next?
Let's see, anyone new in text? The question: can we create our own servers and edit timer, final scores, player count map? Eventually.
Well, my friend, that's the funny thing. The whole point of the way that we're designing the game is to avoid the pitfall that many other live service games have had, where they need to host everything on their own. Our goal is to make Ramshackle a solid experience out of the box. You can pick it up, start playing, whatever. But if you want something specific, you want something for your friends, you want this, you want that, that's fine. You can have your own server with your own stuff, your own progression, your own mods. It's all yours to configure. That is the core intent here. But we're not going to be able to do that until we're actually in a position where the game is consistently functional. If something crashes or something weird happens, we want all of the levers and knobs and dials to be able to control exactly what's happening. So in the future, just not right now.
There's like a Ukrainian gaming clan that put up their own server. Over the
Yeah.
course of the playtest, that was wild.
Yeah.
Like 10
Like you
people
can do
at a
it. It's
time.
just there's not a lot of configurability to it yet, and we definitely
Yeah.
want to angle for that.
Yeah, the game, yeah, like we're trying to make internally we have all the configs, and it's just a question of like, okay, when a system is more locked in and we're like confident with it, we'll like slowly start releasing configs and modding support and stuff like that in strategic areas as we feel confident with those systems. So
Yep. And to be clear, yes, progression is per server. So if you're on the official main server, your progression will be whatever it is. And if you join some random server, your progression will be exactly as it was when you first joined the official server. And it'll be the responsibility of the server owner to do whatever it is they want with the information on there. So we can guarantee that the official servers will be as good as we can make them and as stable as we can make them and make sure not to lose stuff and so on. We can't guarantee that for anyone else, but that's just the risk you run with private servers.
Yep. Yeah, progression is on a per server basis. Yeah. So, and that's mostly because, you know, you can have different mods and different settings and stuff. It wouldn't make sense to have cross server progression.
I think best next would be Bayo Rex.
Okay.
Been waiting for a bit.
Pulling Bayorex. I believe they were using just text anyway, so whatever. So many great questions. I was kind of negative on this whole Discord feature until I've actually used it, but damn, it's actually all right.
You know, like 20 people talking all at once, streaming different games.
Yeah. Here's a rapid fire one. Any plans for Fabric as a joke? Is it possible to have a tier 0 for World War One? I'm forgetting something else. Fabric as in like a material to build with, like wood?
Like the gun cover?
Yeah, a gun cover or like a camo net or something like that.
How do you do that?
So there's a few ways of going about that. It's not so bad to do screen space fabric these days, especially with all the various tools and advancements that's made in all directions. Now, as for making physics listen to what the fabric is doing, like preventing something because the fabric is there, that's probably never going to be a thing, and I wouldn't really expect like a piece of cloth to hold up to much of anything other than catching on fire, maybe. So I'm not saying that it's never going in. I'm saying that it's going to be when the rest of the game is nice and happy and we can start doing that'd be cool kind of features rather than, oh god, we need this.
Unfortunately, scientists have, over thousands of years, have researched wood is not structural. So you just can't do anything.
Just can't do it. Why do you think they put metal screws into things?
Yeah.
Because wood isn't structural. Duh.
Obviously.
Okay, who's next? I think King Machine has not been up. Has he?
No, he has not. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Well, let's see it.
I mostly just have one evil question. There's been a lot of people in like spaghetti mobiles, which are just a bunch of wheels held together by struts, and they're kind of impossible to shoot. Has that been addressed in any way?
So there's a few reasons why they aren't quite possible to shoot, and all of them are dumb. The main one is the fusing behavior and the hit registration. We bent way over backwards to make it super useful and amazing and really effective when you're hitting other vehicles. But if you're hitting the ground, not so much. And for a couple of reasons, the various damage effects that happen when you shoot the ground nearby something else aren't quite what they should be. They are going to be worked on and fixed and updated as we go, because I'm going to need to do that anyway to fix up how the hit registration is currently not quite 100% and it needs to be. So that will be addressed by changing a few behavioral patterns on how fragments work and their range and so on. If they are genuinely just spaghetti with struts and whatever, shooting a high explosive shell next to them should make them go away.
I have tried that. Unfortunately, most of them still survive.
Yeah.
I
So
don't know.
that's
There's
something
one
we
in
need to fix.
particular that I really don't like. It's basically he has a 122 up on like literally a 10-meter tall plinth,
seen
and
that
he's
one.
shooting down onto people's roof. And it's really annoying. Like, I can survive it in my heavy tank. It's not insane, but it's really, everyone's saying, "Oh, you mean deeds?" Yeah, deeds. Anyway.
A lot of the time, you're
Yeah,
limited by
it's incredibly annoying to deal with that. There's someone else who does it too, and like the tanks go, because they're on wheels and they only weigh like 10 tons. The things go like 100, and
They
I'm sure they
will-
only cost like $300. It's just frustrating to fight.
They will eventually snap apart like toothpicks, but there's also the star system that stops you from just taking as many machine guns as possible, like the Americans do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That will be re-examined with Crew 2.0. Hopefully killed.
Yeah, there's a few things that we're expecting to take care of that design without directly nerfing any individual part themselves. We want to improve behaviors rather than nerf behaviors in order to control other behaviors. That is the design intent. It might not work out. We might need to do some nerfing here and there, but that is the goal.
Okay. I don't really have anything else major. I mean, you guys have already said that most things that I have questions about are changing, so there's no point in asking, really.
Well, it's always good to ask just so you can tell what our intent is, so you can figure out where we are planning to go. But thank you for your question.
Well, yeah, okay, then I guess one more thing. I like super heavies. Is that gonna exist, or am I gonna get smacked miserably?
Well, that depends on what kind of super heavy it is. If it's super expensive, then that's different.
I mean, you already
Um,
saw the one steel box with wheels sticking out the bottom.
I liked it.
That's about what I mean. Large stuff like the Maus or the VK100.
So long as
Or,
it's
you know.
possible to deal with you in ways other than like very tediously chipping through your forehead over the course of 10 minutes, like I want to be able to do something about you. And if you position yourself well in such a way that makes it difficult to deal with you, then that's how video game work. But
I
if
will
it is impossible to
specifically-
deal with you, then that's a
Well,
problem.
yeah, as it is, it's generally chipping away, unless people can get to the sides or rear, which is just me trying to keep distance in a big fat 25-kilometer-an-hour brick. So it's not like.
Yeah,
Oh,
this
yeah.
is also a thing where like artillery could potentially help with this because maybe there's another way to like that can be a check potentially, but we'll see.
I'll
Yeah.
specifically have a dive bomber AI target your roof.
Oh hell no! Specifically, anyone with my name just gets
Yep.
bombed
Just
immediately
you.
upon spawning. Thanks.
It misses for everyone else.
Oh no! I'm magnetized because my tank is so much steel. Just dropping
Well,
naval
shouldn't have been so
mines.
fat.
God damn it!
All right.
All right.
Thank you very much for the question.
Text questions. Do you plan
All
on
right.
making first-person vehicles easier to make? For example, viewports that you can see through from inside the tank. Talking about the.
So this has
page up,
been
page down.
a personal fixation of mine for a while, making that first person thing useful. And originally it was just kind of a gimmick because haha, it's sort of funny, but actually making it useful requires a few things, such as like shrinking the head of the crewman that you're in so you don't see their goggles. Having vision points actually give you a fixed perspective. I was working on that just a little while ago, so you can't just spin your scope in place, like that kind of thing. We definitely want to improve the handling of the view and stuff. I know there's been a lot of requests to make it more War Thunder-like as opposed to World of Tanks-like, and whether or not that's a good idea, it doesn't matter because the way that everything's going to need to be integrated into Ramshackle systems are going to be unique either way. I do want to have better control of the camera in all cases, and that does include having first-person handling that doesn't suck. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, and if the first person handling becomes good enough, just on its own right, it probably won't be very useful or very effective, but that opens the door for like configuring options on servers or like mods and stuff, which like force everybody to use that as like a fun, different way to play the game, or it removes a lot of the HUD and
The
stuff.
realism mode.
The realism mod, right? I could totally see that happening.
Personally implement the Chrome Hounds picture-in-picture scope a little. Probably on
Mhm.
the new render.
Yeah.
Is there a scope for guns that will be added? Like the barrel, down the barrel scope? Wait, no. Is there a scope for guns that will be added? Like historical guns only,
This
or
is
certain major prototypes?
like very specific sights that you would expect to see with very specific guns, which is the thing that happened quite often, is that a gun would be specifically mated with a sight and so on.
I think it was like the scope of guns. Like, are we gonna add rail guns?
Oh, okay, I misread that twice. Jesus, going on 2 hours. Okay, what is the scope? What is the maximum breadth? We're probably not going to see sci-fi stuff for the foreseeable future. Just write that off. Now, railguns are cool, and I like railguns. And we actually had railguns in a very early alpha build of the game just to see what it was like, and it was fun. Just kind of making up how their ballistic profile worked. We would like to at least make a gesture at getting all of the major guns that tank fans would expect. Obviously, you know, like the Panther gun, the Tiger gun, those are examples of things that we are currently representing in some cases. The Panzer IV gun, the T-34 gun, stuff like that. Like the Leopard and the Abrams and this, that, whatever. Sure, in the future, but that'll be like a case-by-case basis as we move through the ranks and we properly flesh them out one at a time. We don't want to rush to a future point without making sure our foundations are solid. And I know a lot of people are really excited for more modern stuff, but if the core isn't really solid, then we're not going to get there very quickly. Storm Tigers 3.
I was wondering if someone was going to say Brumbar or something.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things in War Thunder is that awful vehicle.
I like the Churchill one.
Now, very specifically in cases of the long form mode where we have objectives that aren't strictly like things that are shooting at you, but perhaps a fortified position like a bastion fort or something that has like a big magazine underground. Maybe there are specific weapons that you bring to deal with them quickly, and that could be one of them. That would be a massive overcommitment on your part as a player on the team, but if something needs to go, then there probably should be a something needs to go gun to match that.
We are also approaching 2 hours. How much more?
Yeah, so we could.
How long do we want to go?
We could probably do maybe another 15 minutes. We'll put a clock on this now. So.
All right.
Okay.
Anyone who has not gone yet has a burning question on the future of Robocraft 2. I mean, Ramshackle.
Let's see.
Oh yeah, there was a Robocraft 2. Oh god.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
that did actually happen, and it was awful. Well, I don't think Caddy's gone.
Yet.
All right, let's hear it. Greetings.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
I've been known to give many good suggestions within the game.
Of course.
Uh-huh.
What question do you have?
So, in terms of tracks, will we ever get like a double-sided track system like I've been asking for? Please.
Double-sided as in?
Like the turtle?
Like T95 turtle or?
More
like
in the
it's
sense
designed
like,
to have 2 pairs?
Or are you talking
more
about
in the sense of
mounting style?
mounting style.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a like a HVSS or whatever you want to call it in the works. And I also have it's in I still have to finish the Matilda track. That's going to be double side mounted. Now the question is on the expectation for the final drive housing. That will still be conventional. But the suspension assemblies and how it mounts will be pretty much completely. It'll be double-sided, and it will be the entire suspension will be internal, like to the track width. So you can basically.
And will we also be able to rotate the road wheels independently of the sprocket?
There is some. This kind of harps back to the earlier question about losing a track and the wheel still kind of does wheel things a little bit. There are some updates that need to be made with how the track physics performs before that is a thing. The reason they're forced up and down is just so the wheel physics does what it's supposed to more often than not, and rotating them can technically work. It was a thing way back in the alphas. It's just its reliability was subpar, and it sometimes did weird things and would cause exploits and stuff. So we kind of just had to clamp it down. So in
We're in
theory,
a much
that's an
better
avenue.
position to try different things, but that's like
Yeah.
a future intent as we make sure that everything's actually functional before we start
Mhm.
adding like little nice to haves.
Yeah.
I had another thing, but then I forgot.
Well,
No problem.
You can
Put it in text.
pop that into the text track letter. Yeah. Thank you for the question.
Space.
Okay. Who was next? Who was next?
Any other big text questions? I think I saw one. This is actually probably a good one to end on. Probably is, are we going to do more of these Q&As before the early access or whatever?
He's getting airstruck with the answer. Personally, I was gonna base that answer on how well this went, and I think this has gone perfectly well. I think we stayed on topic very well. We answered a lot of good questions. We got asked a lot of good questions, so I don't see why we can't do this more often. I'm not saying we should probably do this every week, but more often than the next massive update, possibly.
We'll probably have them in sync with like major updates or yeah, because we don't know how many more playtests we're gonna do officially yet for before we go into early access. So that will probably depend. But yeah, generally this has gone relatively well, so expect more. Yeah, it'd be cool to do it in sync with updates, so like there's potentially some fresh questions that we can answer and stuff, or at least some dev blog post or like something to fester new questions. But
Also, just ping us on the Discord. Within the
yeah, we're pretty easy. This is
Yeah.
just kind of like a way for people to maybe get a little bit more information than just asking in the Discord.
Well, even better, it's a place for everybody to get their questions heard. So, oh, hey, someone else asks what I wanted to ask. Maybe I'm not the only person on Earth that's crazy or sane, depending.
Yep.
Let's see, do another voice question.
Yeah, we could probably clear out all these remaining voice questions, and then end.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
let's do
Nice and fast. Heto, Mr. Heto. Hello.
Okay. Was not prepared.
Oh no.
Okay, let me just scroll through things that haven't been answered already.
We
Okay,
can
so
come back
just,
to you if
this is,
you.
no, there's a small one that's kind of important. How much longer is the official server going to be up?
Oh, I could just leave it up. It's just sitting on machine. What do you guys think?
All right, no worries about that one then. And then the other question I had, which is probably the small thing, is that are we going to get more options for the shapes of ammo racks?
So I actually specifically experimented with this a while back, and the answer is a little bit complex, but it kind of relies on a few things. The handling of the autoloading stuff, the crew stuff, and a few of the damage questions, but the
Multi-ammo
specific
types as
answer,
well.
yeah, that exactly. But the specific answer of, oh, I don't want them in like a box formation. I want them staggered, and I want them to be wet. Actually, I want them to be in a wet rack instead. Like, is that just a button I click? What does it do with the mesh? What shape does it take? How heavy is that? These are all questions that I tried, but I found that it was possible to have more shapes. Whether or not it was likely that we're going to have them in the short term, that depends entirely on what kind of shapes are most requested.
All right, that works then. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Here we go.
Hi, welcome
Hello,
back.
hello.
Welcome me back right now.
Welcome you back. Welcome back.
Thank you. All right. Actually, since I know you guys are kind of running a little bit low on timing here, but I kind of wanted to ask, what are some things you guys are really excited to add in the future? And I guess you'd have to just leave it a little ambiguous for us, keep us on our toes. That way it doesn't take too long, because I know you guys probably have some really cool stuff cooking that you're excited about.
Damn, that's a hard thing to answer in just like one statement. Like, what am I most looking forward to? In terms of like,
Yeah, to say something completely cool and cryptic and leave us guessing. Just get it there. Hang up like immediately.
MechWarrior has some pretty cool ideas. Put it that way.
Oh.
Yeah, I'd say for me, like Crew 2.0 is a perfect opportunity to add a lot of systems that have been kind of in the back foot for a long while that we wanted to do, but we just had no mechanism to like do it because Crew was kind of put in really early in development and not really touched like all that much since. So it'd be nice to like do a refresh on that. For me personally, things like radiators I want to do. Like I really want to experiment with like could we maybe get some mass air volume calculations of some description so it actually like we can make engine compartments and stuff make sense. And then I mentioned the artillery site. There's some cool stuff we can do with that. But aside from the obvious, not much from my side. Anything from
specifically on the mass air volume calculations, like adding ways to make people build more complex things to get more stuff happen, but not require it outright. So like your engine will still work if you don't have like a nice engine bay, but it will work nicer. Like having a good ergonomic position for your crew, they will work nicer, and that's the idea with that.
Also amphibious stuff. I can't wait till we start doing that.
Whoa!
Don't give away too much. Ooh.
Oh yeah.
I cannot wait for more attack units, actual attack units. I want to play this game like an RTS. It's going to be so good.
Yeah. So I think that's all the time we have for that. But yeah, don't worry, we got lots.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually really exciting. Anyways, thanks for answering. Yeah.
Thank you for the question.
All right, last two remaining voice are Corbo and KTA.
Corbo.
Yo. All right. So I mentioned
Hello.
something about missiles. I'll just make this quick. But ATGMs and missiles, dumb missiles, I kind of feel like they balance themselves for the most part. But I'm curious, what kind of ranks are we going to expect to see them, and how do you guys specifically feel you're going to approach balancing them?
Well, we've already implemented some of the backbone for handling that kind of stuff. The major one that we need to make sure is rock solid is, of course, where is the projectile in space? It doesn't know where it is. It needs to, for guidance to make any sense at all. So there's a few backbone things like that, but we want the ones that you'd expect, like the thing that pops out of the top of the BMP turret and then you manually steer it. Like that should be an early example of an ATGM, for example. Having automated like Stinger missile style top attack, actually you're dead instantly, lol mao. I don't know about that being in the earlier tiers, but maybe when we have stuff like hard kill, stuff like jamming, stuff like things that you can actually like do as a player against it. Like if somebody's manually steering a missile towards you, your counterplay is to move. If somebody is firing a fire and forget missile that kills you instantly, your counterplay is to die.
You will likely see rockets and wireless rifles way before.
Yeah, probably. The big thing with those is, especially like multi-launch rocket systems like the Calliope or whatever, the big difference on those is like you basically get to set the amount of rockets you have in the rack, and in order to reload them, like you kind of just have to go back to base and like restock them. Like there's no like real reload mechanic on those, so they're gonna be like fire once and then that's it. And that'll kind of do a lot of balancing for those. So
Also another, usage for ARVs and support, vehicles and things like that.
Exactly.
Now you're thinking.
That exact thing.
So another small suggestion was kind of about torque limit values. Honestly, I think you guys should kind of leave that on like the backlog. And when a meta forms and you can kind of see people abusing it, then that would be a good idea to more clearly see kind of where you should, change those values and things like that. But
I agree.
Yeah. But I want to say one
agree.
more thing. the Q&A is really good for community sentiment. I really do like this game. I fucking hate War Thunder. I hate video games now. But this game is like actually something really interesting, and this definitely cleared up a lot of my worries. It's gonna make waiting for the third playtest really hard, but I'll absolutely be
Well-
there. And the second this game drops, I'm buying that shit. I'm leaving a good review.
Well,
yeah,
we'd love to hear it. This is literally our life's work.
Yeah, yeah. I can see this panning out very well. You guys are honestly some of the, you guys are phenomenal devs. I like you guys, and I'm happy to hear
Well-
all the shit that you have to post and all that.
Thank you very much. We try very hard.
I also like the shit post. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, one more for KTA. Sorry, Ren, we're going to have to cut you off. We are already overtime.
We're overtime.
Yeah.
All right, my final question is actually finally to do with crew again. So
Hey, okay.
what other uses are crew going to have? So earlier Commander mentioned that there's maybe an artillery plotter. If so, like what would the commander do for the tank? What would an assistant
That's an
driver
excellent
do?
question.
That kind of example.
This would be the roll thing with the stations.
Yeah, I'll explain this, but I've got a jet flying
Go
over.
ahead.
Hang on.
Yeah, so generally speaking, we don't want cases where, oh yeah, this is the crew commander module, and you place it in the crew commander, and he does 5% bonus to blah, blah, blah. More focusing on what you as a player decide, okay, you are assigned to this, so this position in the vehicle does this. And whatever this might happen to be has some specific effect on a system that matters. So driving, gunning, radioing, repairing, loading, all those examples, like these are roles that you assign to the crew in their position. As far as what they'll do, Stark will get into that.
Yeah, so the big thing that we want to open up is a dedicated gunner position, like as an entity that is tracked in the game better instead of just lol handcrakes. And that will tie into like your traverse, your aim accuracy, bloom, things like that. We're going to be changing how bloom is calculated most likely as far as like the actual bloom equation. Having the gunner is like where the trigger inputs are, and then you actually have to assign cannons to that. So that's going to help clamp down on like just spamming guns all day long, as far because you need to have like more gunners, which increases the cost. And then commander role. So there is already like a passive spotting system that's in the game. You'll see like the little chevron point, like that's technically the commander doing stuff, but in the game there's no way to like change that in the designer. So the commander as a position will be ways to influence your situational awareness, how quickly you spot people around you, and then also like things like giving you range estimation as well, like as just a cooldown that you can use. And then overall, like I think we'll scope out like a designate target option for the commander as well, so you can like lock down a particular enemy and then gives you extra information, maybe range or a range estimation, but also flags them for your teammates and stuff. Like kind of tie in a lot of current features that are already in the game, but just like unify them around the commander role. That's kind of what the commander is going to act as. There's potentially an intercom system, which will let you kind of give you a coordination buff. There is one big change on Crew 2.0. There's going to be a coordination modifier, which is basically the more people you have in the tank, they work less efficiently. And that's a general debuff across the board. So the commander will help mitigate that to a certain extent, but not entirely.
You will also likely lose the free torque on trunnions.
Yeah,
and
well, that's
rings.
that's been gone for a little bit, and yeah, so eventually there will be a radio role, but we don't have the radio in the game yet, so that's not really a discussion point. Things like machine guns will actually need to be like either assigned to a gunner, like on their alt trigger, or for the pintle mounts and stuff, you'll actually need like a dude in proximity to them who puts his focus into it. So if it's your loader by chance, if you want to use that machine gun, you're going to be taking a reload penalty if you choose to do that. So things like that. But anyway.
All right. Thank you.
Hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, yes, it did.
All right. Thank you very much. So I think that's going to be the last question that we take for now. Thank you all very much for joining us. This was actually a lot of fun.
Yep.
And hopefully we'll do this more often. We'll discuss it internally and what kind of timelines we want to be doing this on. But like one of the questions that we answered, this really helps with players understanding what we're trying to get across even more so than just text posts would. But even just having text posts and YouTube videos and whatever, we do want to have more interactions with, hey, what are we doing? What is the plan? What's going on? For the longest time, it's just been the game is broken and it sucks. But now we're moving into, okay, now we can start doing interesting things with interesting ideas. This is all the cool outcomes that we expect to see. So doing more and more content as we go on and we start ramping up more and more with public releases.
Yeah, we really want to make sure before we go into early access that there's a solid footing. And if it's just a question of like, oh, I want to add XYZ module, or I want to add more ranks, or I want to add more quality or more features or more mechanics and stuff, like that's all stuff we can do in early access. But if the game, foundational, conceptual wise, or its identity is like completely muddied and like it doesn't know what it is, it's going to make early access a real pain in the ass. So we want to make sure we're in a good place, because we would like to get into early access sooner than later, as far as just
Money.
being able to play money and also just not having the whole like playtest schedule and stuff. Like we can stagger our updates and
yeah. Like in the future, it might be like a Patreon thing or whatever, where, oh, you can do extra support for us so we can eat food.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
But we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yep. All right. Close her up for today, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it.
Thank you for joining.
Yep.
Now,
Do we have a place to
I think I just end the
thank you very
event. I'm
much.
not sure, but yeah.
Yeah. End
Go
stage
ahead,
for
Jeff.
everyone.
Went pretty well.
Yeah, I think that was pretty productive.
Hi, hello. How are you?
Good.